If you've ever felt like your marketing is just busy work, this episode is your wake-up call. Today's guest is someone I've been following for a while now, and I'm excited to finally have her on the show. Heidi Hattendorf is a seasoned marketing leader, a fractional CMO, and now a published author with her new book, The Marketing Growth Formula. With over 2 decades of experience in B2B marketing across tech, healthcare, and life sciences, she brings a no-nonsense approach to turning marketing into a growth engine, not just a cost center. We'll talk about her journey from corporate exec to launching her own advisory firm, how product marketing shaped her strategy mindset, and what it takes to write a best-selling book on Amazon. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome to the LiftKit Marketing Podcast. I'm John Hoeft, and this is Danielle Schermerhorn. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a great guest that I'm excited to introduce to you and learn more about because she just released a book, and I'm really looking forward to it. But before we do that, I always like to catch up with Danielle.
Hey.
How was your week? How are things going? Any new biz? Anything exciting going on in the industry that you want to call out?
Yeah, a lot of great things have been happening in my life. I just was part of an organization called 100 Women Who Care, and it's a nationwide movement. It's really amazing where 100 women get together, donate $100 each, and within an hour, you give at least $10,000 to an organization, a nonprofit in your community. We just had our second event, and I'm one of the steering committee members, and we actually ended up raising $36,000 in 1 hour. We had over 100 women show up. So a really amazing event we were able to give to 2 really great organizations. And I heard, John, that you're doing some really amazing work with an organization too. Is that right?
Yeah, the benefits of being able to leverage your skill set for a cause, is always a great opportunity. And if you've got that flexibility and the skill set, use it. If the company you're working for isn't doing something to give back to the community somehow, find a way to make that happen. But yeah, I had a unique opportunity presented to me to help out with a nonprofit here in Minneapolis. If you recall, earlier in the school year, there was a shooting here in Minneapolis. And so there's a foundation that was able to get a grant and raise some money. And they created this whole curriculum to help educate students, teachers, school administrators on safety in the schools, how to recognize it, and how to, prevent it in a variety of different ways. And so they needed some media help to get the word out. And I teamed up with a couple other agencies, Creative Shop, media buying agencies, and then media companies. And it was just amazing to see everybody collaborate on it. And I think in the end, we probably got over close to $100,000 in media spend. A lot of that was donated or matched. So it's been fun to facilitate all that, but it's called findthewordsmn.com. It was a lot of fun to be able to do that and just collaborate with a lot of the local media and other agencies to make it happen.
Such an important cause too. As a mom of 3 and they're all school aged, I really appreciate that. Because
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's another one, another client of mine, MDI.org, which has a division called Unified Work, which is one of the number 1 hirers of disabled people in Minnesota.
Yes.
They actually train and hire these people. They go through different curriculum, online academies and experiential learning, but that's another fun account that, just feels good to work on.
Awesome. Yeah.
Cool. So I want to get into our guest. I'm really excited about it. This is a person that I met maybe a year or 2 ago and just have kept in touch with her via LinkedIn and watched her grow. And she actually just launched a book. So I'm excited to hear about that. So I put together just a quick intro, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here once I pull you in on camera. But her name's Heidi Hattendorf. And she knows how to turn marketing from a cost center into a serious growth engine. Heidi's a fractional CMO. She's a growth strategist, a go-to-market advisor, and the author of The Marketing Growth Formula. So with more than 2 decades of global leadership experience, she's helped B2B companies across tech, health, life sciences, and services align strategy with execution and drive real business results. She's the founder of Transformation Insights. She brings together the clarity of strategist, the precision of an operator, and the heart of a mentor. Whether she's optimizing go-to-market systems, helping leadership teams focus on their positioning, or integrating AI into marketing ops, Heidi leads with purpose, frameworks, and a mindset of impact. If you've ever felt like your marketing is busy but not effective, Heidi is your reset button. Please welcome Heidi Hattendorf. Hey, Heidi.
Hi, John. Thanks so much for having me on. Yeah, this is great. And I loved hearing about, for you and Danielle, how you're paying it back and paying it forward. So inspiring. I do similar. I just think that we can take these skill sets and be able to leverage them in the community as well.
Heidi, have you had any experiences with nonprofits?
Yeah. It's so I've been on the board for a nonprofit that was really driving entrepreneurs and helping build that skill set. So that was really rewarding. Most recently, I've been an advisor at Northwestern with their entrepreneurship program. And it's a very technology driven program. So they're creating all types of amazing tech, especially in the areas of sustainable energy. But what they need is some advisory around, well, how do we commercialize that? Or how do we create a pitch deck or tell the story? So it's amazing how you can work with these technical communities, and there's such a need to then pair that with the commercial side. And then finally, I do a lot of mentoring at my church. And so, that's a little bit more of helping with job placement or even helping figure out where somebody wants to focus or reshift in their career. And that's been extremely rewarding as well. So yeah, it's really taking these same ideas and then applying them where we can help.
You have such an amazing career. You've worked at some very big corporations and now being an entrepreneur yourself, you have a lot to be proud of. We love to start at the beginning of that, of where did you start, when you were even 18 and how did you get into marketing?
Yeah, and it's a great question always, right? Because people take different paths. For me, I'm actually someone who studied marketing. So it's always, I guess it's a smaller percentage of people who end up in whatever they studied. But yeah, I went to Northern Illinois, studied marketing as part of a BA, and then later went on for an MBA in international marketing. And just was really passionate about that idea about business cases, business development, creating something. So a lot of my early career was in product marketing, and I kind of came up through the ranks through product marketing, which is really understanding, very technical, the product, but also creating what's that value proposition, doing market research, connecting that up, and then turning that into a, more what we call today campaigns and strategy. And so now it's funny when you look back at how marketing's evolved, it's always changing, right? It's always evolving. But what used to be handled by one person is now like an entire department, and then the tools that go within each stage. And so yeah, it's changed over the years. I think for me, starting out in product marketing, working for a large corporation, and then being able to work in different business areas on different product lines was really helpful. And then making that switch to, medium-sized SaaS companies, still hundreds of millions of dollars for ARR, but then being able to look at, well, how do I help those companies grow? What's the message, the positioning, and then the activation, making it real. That's so important, looking at the measurements, adjusting course, and then making sure you're getting the right investments. Because, as you said, I believe so strongly, marketing's not a cost center. It should be viewed as a return on investment, as a growth engine. I mean, for companies in PE, it's a value lever, right? Go to market and marketing is one of the value levers for value creation. And so I think somewhere along the line, sometimes people have miscategorized marketing, thinking it's purely brand, or it's purely social media, or it's only ads, or it's only one element. And that really misses the opportunity, especially to partner with sales and to turn it into that growth engine.
Yeah, I mean, so many organizations don't have the luxury of having a product marketing. And so they start a business because they had a product idea and then they just keep running with it. And we haven't been able to talk to somebody who has been in product marketing. Can you just walk us through a little bit of like what your day-to-day was and how you brought something to market?
Yeah, and I think today so there's product marketing, but like a lot of smaller, let's say tech startups, as you're saying, they may not necessarily hire product marketing, but they need to focus beyond just pure product and beyond pure sales. So somebody who can put together, that value proposition. So maybe that looks like go to market. It could be business development, but somebody who's got a lens looking at both sales as well as the market side, kind of tying the two together. And so the day in the life for product marketing, and then like I said, I went on to being CMO and running, full marketing. But in terms of looking at that lens, it's really looking at what does the customer want? What can we build? What's the problem that we're solving? How do we solve it? What's the solution? And then tying the two together at its most critical core, right? Its most simplistic form. And then from there, it's how are we positioned against competition? What do we offer? How do we talk about that? And then position it in a way that's different but understandable by the market. And so then, when I went on to then lead and run marketing teams, then I had the full range. It was brand and demand. It was, everything from events and go-to-market activations. But then there was still a key element of product marketing within that. And so coming back to your question, smaller companies that are just getting going, they may not need to hire a full marketing person or product marketing. Now with fractional, they can partner for that expertise, bring in somebody who can help them. So what that looks like is in the early stages, looking at the positioning, the messaging, the pitch deck, and then, later getting into the go-to-market motions or the activations, whether it's going to be a partner strategy, whether it's going to be, let's say, very much event-led. It could be an account-based marketing with a number of top accounts. But the mistake that I see often made is, we'll do marketing later. Almost like once we've got something, then as if marketing is just purely the promotional side of it, right? As opposed to baking it in up front. And that's why sometimes the term go-to-market or marketing strategy or business development can resonate a little bit more, because whatever you call it, that function needs to happen and get baked in right from the start, and works really well in a technical company, because it's looking at the commercial side of it, the part that's going to really resonate with an investor or an early adopter type customer. Either one is going to need to understand what's the business model? Why is it good for them? The why behind all the great technology and feature set.
That's great. And I think, what do you think about, when you're in early stages like that and you think your ideal customer profile, you think how you're going to go to market, you're making a lot of assumptions. Maybe you've done certain aspects of research to get to a point, but how important is it to stay flexible or stick to your guns in terms of what you committed to initially?
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, I think in the early stages, it's really that problem market fit. So, you solve a particular problem, you're working with a given market. But then as you get those repeatable customers in the similar industry, then you can start to focus, have that more focused niche and get to product market fit, which is more of that repeatable, sustainable. But yeah, to your point, in the early days, it makes sense to be a little bit more flexible because you're trying things out. You have a hypothesis or an idea about who is that ideal customer. But then there's nothing like real conversations, real feedback to see if that's a fit. A lot of times, somebody may think, my pricing, the market's not willing to pay the price, but that could mean that they're going after the wrong market for, the value that they're providing, or the market isn't seeing that value. So there's a mismatch somewhere. And it all comes back, like you said, to ideal customer profile. So that can look like the type of company, the industry, the size, but even more importantly, what problem or pain point do they have? I think too often it's easy to get caught up in defining that persona or that ideal customer based on the firmographics or the attributes of the company, when really it's more of that heart and soul of what are they struggling with. So for example, selling an ERP system, you're really selling accurate data. You're selling simplicity, doing the process better, saving money, saving time. But if you focus it all in on the features, the capabilities, and this big laundry list, you're going to lose the person versus looking at, okay, what does the CFO need to understand, or what are their pain points? What do they care about? How about the head of ops? How about, let's say, the business team, right? Who's going to also be using this on the sales side. So those are just some examples of honing in, understanding that ICP, but being very focused on the pain points, challenges, and what are the choices they have, including substitute technology, not just competitors.
these are like the brass tacks of marketing, features versus benefits. And when you're talking, what comes to my mind is the 5 Ps of marketing. And something I've been thinking a lot about is the challenge with a lot of marketers today is that you don't have control over every single P. So we have people, place, price, promotion, and product. And so often the product is left out of that. And actually, probably the only P that they really have control over is that promotion piece. And so I love what you're saying, because it really is like true marketing of representing the customer. But how do people who are in a place where they only have control over promotion?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And I guess I would challenge, why don't they have control? I mean, certainly the company has control over all of those different aspects. And one of the best things that they can do within marketing is have that tight alignment with sales, and then also with customer success. And if it's a smaller company, let's just say delivery, and then, just working across, right? So product plus, the delivery plus sales plus marketing, all really having a common purpose, common dashboard, common goals, and looking at it together as opposed to serial handoffs, right? So the classic example is, marketing's tasked with going out and getting a ton of leads, and then, but how many of those are really converting? And then sales is saying, well, were the leads really good quality? As opposed to, I've been part of teams before where we've really partnered up, looked at common objectives, and then define, what does that ideal customer look like? What is a good lead? And then are some of them just not ready to buy now? And then, we'll stay in touch. We'll continue a nurture type campaign. But, just looking at quality of leads and quality of who you want to reach out to over quantity, and I think data can be misleading because, more always seems to be better. But it's really looking at more at like conversion rates than just pure number of leads or volume coming in. So that's where I would say to get hold of all of the P's and not just say, oh, we can only do promotion, because that's where it slots marketing into just a very narrow box, very late in the cycle, as opposed to helping define upfront. Maybe we need some additional capabilities in the product based on the market research, based on what customers are saying, based on the opportunities out there. And then even distribution, so many major brands started because they had really creative and disruptive ways of getting to market, and they challenged what was out there. They went direct, they found a partner strategy. So innovation happens in so many different ways, and distribution and, the place P of it can be one as well. So that's what I would leave you with, is to really challenge, why don't they feel like they have control over every single area, or at least a seat at that table?
I've got a couple things that I want to make sure we hit on here. One is you've spent so much time with large global companies, corporate leadership, and then you launched your own advisory firm. I want to hear about that transition and what was going on in your life and in your mind through all that. And then the other thing I'm really curious about is the whole process of deciding to write a book. And what does that look like? How did that come about? What all did that require in terms of time and energy and effort? And is it paying off? So let's start with the first one. You've worked at these global companies, some startups, you've held corporate leadership positions. What made you decide, or what happened with that transition into launching your own advisory firm?
Oh, sure. No, and it's great. For me, it was just always something I had in the back of my mind that at some point I was going to transition and do that. So I had that opportunity. I thought, rather than switching over into that next role, I think I'm just going to try this and go out there. And I just started getting clients and working through it, because I wasn't trying to sell necessarily. I was really just like, how can I help you? How can I help this company? I'd love to package up what I've learned and then really apply it. And especially to smaller companies that are on that growth trajectory. I've worked a lot with PE firms. So almost every company I've been with, I've done a transformation or have worked on the PE side. And so I'm very familiar on the value creation. I thought it's so similar. It's this idea of coming in, looking at where a company's at, and then being able to take them to that next level. So sometimes the engagements are shorter, where it's, okay, very specific strategy. Other times, it's a much longer, goes month to month, and it's, just continuous improvement, but also looking at They're very much looking at the data driven, what are their goals? Where do they want to get to? And then I may bring in others. So the decision was really, like I said, it was really just something I've had in my mind, thinking it's just the ultimate way to walk the talk. If I'm, out there talking about marketing and building a business, I really want to be able to do that myself and add value. So that was a big part of it. And yeah, it's just celebrated 2 years. So, absolutely love it. I've been fortunate to work with some just amazing companies and great clients. And the same on the corporate side, I work for some phenomenal brands and just, wanted to take that knowledge, package that up, and then offer it out in a different way. And I think having been CMO and having, looked across marketing, understanding there's just so much going on, I felt the area that I could add a lot of value was being able to hone in on that front part of like, what's the strategy, but then turning strategy into execution through measurements, but through focus, right? Not trying to do everything, but trying to do what's going to really work for that given company. So that was really the start of it. And that model really resonates because a lot of people are pulled really, they just are stretched thin and they're trying to do everything. So we really get back to, what's going to make the most sense.
Well, what surprises were there? I mean, you started a business, it's been 2 years. Were there any moments where you're like, oh, this didn't happen how I thought it would happen, or your advice, you learned something that maybe your advice that you were giving didn't work for you or something?
I think
did it all go perfectly?
Oh, no. Oh, yeah, that's it. One of the things I've learned along the way, though, is, just we can all get stretched really thin. And so it was to have that focus. So I think in the beginning, I was looking at where do I want to focus and trying different things, talking to different types of clients. And then I quickly learned, like, where does this really fit, right? Because there's some companies where it's maybe too early for them, or it's just, they need a different type of marketing. They need something a little bit more tactical. And so I've really settled more on that go-to-market side, which is where marketing meets sales. And it's really more of that conversion of, you've got a plan, let's get your strategy, over the finish line, so to speak. And that's what I love. And a lot of it involves that right positioning, the storytelling, but it's done in a way that executives, it really resonates. It's very practical, so that was something I felt really strong about, is bringing that in. But to answer your question, yeah, I mean, one of the lessons is you have to try different things to see what's going to work, what's going to resonate. And so I was right there with it. So, but it also helps me with credibility of being able to bring that to my clients too. Like, it's okay to experiment, try a few things, but then let's get the data, see what's working, and then hone in, in a particular area. So, and that really was the essence of what led me to write the book, is I thought if I could just package this up, tell the story in a way that really resonates. And so I feel like the chapters just started to naturally come together. So I'll just share really quick. The book is The Marketing Growth Formula, and the point of it too, and the subtitle is The Playbook for Building a Profitable and Thriving Business, because it's not always about growing for the sake of growing or top line growth. It's very much about the profitability, getting the return on investment. And so, like I said, I feel like the chapters just started to fall into place, about starting with market sizing and, who's that ideal customer, and then getting into the positioning. How do you tell that story compared to what's out there and what problem you solve? Moving straight into messaging, and then I'm always talking about people, process, and technology, because it all goes together. And what I didn't want to do is say, like, I'm going to create this like latest book on AI marketing or agentic marketing, for example, because there's plenty of others out there. But also I wanted to start at the beginning about what's your story? What problem do you solve? How do you provide that solution? And then pair some of these timeless strategies with the best and the latest playbooks, processes, technology, AI agents, the whole thing. But first, you've got to have the two pieces going together. Otherwise, I feel like companies dive into AI, but maybe their positioning is off. So you're just doing more of the same to more people, but it's still not resonating. So that was the entire essence of where this came from.
Who is this book for? If you could hand this to anybody, who should be reading this book?
Yeah, so a couple, like I'd say two different audiences. So one is executive teams that want to really understand how can they get the most from marketing and go to market? Like what is that simplified playbook? They're just tired of hearing all the acronyms, and they feel like they're spending a lot, but they really should be seeing it as an investment. So this book is just unpacks that. And then the second is, let's say companies that are growing and are looking to add that marketing expertise. Again, then they feel like they've got a little bit of behind the scenes of like, here's how it works. And even marketing teams themselves, right? We can all learn from each other. And so this is also a helpful guide for them. Maybe they're in one part of marketing, or they came up through demand, but they don't really have a strong side on, let's say, the go-to-market motions, or they're very much into the brand side, but they haven't done a lot with the marketing metrics. So, there's so many different aspects of marketing, and this gives that nice comprehensive. So it's actually, those are a couple of the different areas that have really found benefit from it.
Was writing a book always part of the plan?
Yeah, I've always been a writer. I feel so. It's funny. It's one of those things where people look at me like, "Wow, you really enjoy writing." And at one time I was even going to go into journalism, but really, as I mentioned before, studied marketing instead. And I'm glad I did. It's a way to kind of package up but I have that storytelling, the branding, the whole, I just love the entire function and how it's changed. But I've always done a lot of creativity, a lot of writing, and will continue to do so. So I think, for me, it wasn't, great. I definitely want to sell books and whatnot, but I more want to help people, and I want to help businesses. I really want to help them grow. And I look at this for me as one of those channels, one of those ways to get the message out and to help people that, they can take this. It's very practical and actionable, and then they can do something with that. And then, if they also want to meet with me and talk about their business, great. But otherwise, they've got a really great guide to get started.
Is this your first book, or have you written other books?
I've written a ton of articles. I've written a ton of content out there, but the first in terms of a book. And so that's why I was so thrilled when it hit Amazon bestseller. And that was just a really icing on the cake. Thank you. So, yeah. And then I've had some articles.
It's not your last book. It's not your,
probably not.
Book
yeah, probably not. So, and I'll continue to do articles as well. It's just, and I feel like now people want bite size, and they just, information in different formats. Like your podcast is a really important way to communicate, because sometimes people are on the move and they want to listen to things. So, just as long form content, is so important as well.
Yeah, it sounds like a new business book staple, that everybody should have. And it truly is. Sometimes marketing can be a black box. You talked about sales versus marketing, and often they're pitted against each other and having to compete for results. And, and then a lot of executives don't really understand, they just look at the numbers and like, why are you spending so much money and not seeing how it's impacting the business? So I think that a lot of people will get a lot of out of that. But can you hold it up again just one more time?
We can.
So the marketing growth formula. Awesome. It's definitely something that I will be buying. I can't wait to read it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the description as well. Yeah, for sure. So before we kind of get into our final segment, anything in terms of like success stories or lessons learned that you want to share with us that might help other people navigate either job loss or a tough spot in a career that you could share with us?
Yeah, I would say regardless of, whether it's looking at that next role or something changed, or if it's any sort of setback, we all have them, and there's different seasons. And I feel like, you just need to look at, what can I do now? There's always some way that you can take what you enjoy doing, what you're passionate about, and either repackage it, apply it. Maybe it's volunteering in the meantime, but there's a skill or there's a gift that each of us has, that just don't lose sight of that. So, I would say that's one of the main things, is to look at, there could be changes. We're hearing about so many changes right now in tech, but then what are some of those value add that each of us bring that you can apply? So one of the key attributes within marketing is consistency, right? So it's showing up. It's more important if you're posting, for example, to pick a number like twice a week, to do that consistently, or 4 times a week, whatever that is, rather than every day for 2 weeks and then nothing for 2 months, right? it's consistency so people understand, they hear from you. And then just same within conversations, right? Like being clear on what you provide. And I would say the same thing for any type of change. Being resilient is just showing up as half of it, that attitude of knowing that you've got something to offer and that maybe it'll change format. Maybe you'll end up with a different company or you'll end up doing your own business, or, it could just, you could partner with somebody. But the point is to keep showing up, be consistent, figure out your gifts, where you can add the most value, and then just keep it moving, keep the momentum. And then you'd be surprised at how things can turn and, what opportunities will come your way. Really believe in that.
Yeah, staying curious and always learning is a big part of it too, because especially in marketing, there's, it's constantly evolving and changing. But to your point, stay true to the fundamentals and build around it.
Yeah, that's so well said. And, I think sometimes people get defensive on marketing and defending, but it's like, no, they just want to hear from you on what impact has this made. And so if you look at the bigger goal of we're all in this together, storytelling is really powerful, because the villain in the story is not even the competitor. It's the frustration that customers are going through with whatever that current solution is, and that you've got something better that you can offer. But sometimes it's a matter of telling that in a way that resonates. So thinking about that and then being able to measure that story. Is this a problem that people are willing to pay for? How many people are willing to pay for it? Who else has a similar story? So, then everything else kind of hangs off of that. But follow, what you're good at, what you're passionate about, and where you can add value. Those are the points I would make on that.
I often say to people I'm mentoring, marketing is actually really easy if you just give the people what they want. If you just really focus in on, you have this problem, we have this solution. And sometimes I think we make it more complicated, or we change the messaging, or, it's just like you said, be consistent. Don't change things. I was just talking to somebody on my team today about this of, hey, make it easy for yourself. Set a template, let's repeat it, because that consistency is actually more impactful than trying to come up with a new idea every day. And anyway, it's just something that I'm excited for people to read your book, because it sounds like the fundamentals are in there. And that is something that I think a lot of new marketers maybe don't always get that information, maybe in college, or or once you're in a job, life moves really fast and you just kind of forget those things because you are being asked to show the results, and it can be intimidating, like you were saying.
Yeah, and I love what you said too about really matching what you've got compared to what people need. And I think I hear this all the time, like, oh, I don't want to do my own business because I don't like to sell. But first of all, we're all selling all the time anyhow. It doesn't feel like, I think there's this great saying too that says, people love to buy, but they don't like to be sold to, right? And so it's this idea that if there is a match, it's so natural because there's needs and people need to acquire, new services, new products, new experiences, but they just don't want that salesy pitch, right? And so the more that you can just match what you're providing with what's needed, it becomes more natural. And I love that marketing can help tell that story, build that foundation, measure the results. And it should make it easier for the actual sales and closing the sale, because it's really more of a matching then, just like you said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So many great takeaways. One of the things that we like to do as we kind of wrap up is LiftKit Marketing is about lifting others up. We ask that maybe someone that is working hard behind the scenes and deserves a little recognition. This is a great opportunity to call them out and lift them up.
Sure. So a great colleague, her name's Anna Wanaday, and I wouldn't say she's behind the scenes, but she's definitely doing a lot of great work helping marketing teams, and she runs a really great community group around fractional CMOs. So I just want to give her a shout out.
Fantastic. We'll be sure to drop a link to her LinkedIn in the description as well.
Heidi, how can we follow you, and tell us just a quick pitch about your business, because we didn't really have time to get into that, but how can we follow you and your business and buy the book?
Oh, sure. Thanks. So it's all good. So my website is very simple. It's my name, HeidiHattendorf.com. And then for the book itself, you'll find a link on my website to that. And then I've also got a book website with the title, themarketinggrowthformula.com. And then of course I'm on LinkedIn. And then for my business, it's really working with companies on that go-to-market strategy, fractional CMO. So it's marketing services. And so usually what I'll do is if you see that need or anyone out there would like to understand a little bit more about it, or, maybe you're struggling with your marketing plan or you're not getting the most out of it, I'm not there to sell you a bunch of stuff. I'm there to help you diagnose where is it at, marketing strategy, go-to-market strategy, and then, make some recommendations from there. So that's what Transformation Insights is all about. I've done tons of transformations. I love seeing companies either grow profitably, or if they are looking to add new business areas, just, help them to achieve their goals. So it's been very inspiring, and that's what's really fueled the growth for me too.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Well,
fantastic. Thanks, Heidi.
it was so nice to meet you and to get to know you, and thank you for the chance to lift you up. I'm sure a lot of people will be inspired by this.
Well, thank you so much for having me on your show and all the great work that you do and being able to tell these stories and help businesses. And as we started out, like helping the community as well and just being able to pay it forward. So really appreciate it.
Hello, and thanks for joining the LiftKit Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, John Hoeft, founder of LiftKit Marketing, a consultancy dedicated to supporting agencies and marketers with their digital growth strategies.
And I'm the co-host, Danielle Schermerhorn, a former agency owner and current e-commerce specialist with deep experience across both brand and agency sides of the marketing world.
Each week, we'll bring you conversations with marketing professionals who are doing great work, whether they're leading teams, building campaigns, launching products, or just figuring it out behind the scenes.
Our guests will share their personal journeys, the real stories behind their success, the challenges they faced, and the wins they're most proud of. We'll also hear what's next for them and what they see on the horizon for the industry.
At LiftKit Marketing, we believe in celebrating people, recognizing great work, and lifting up those who are making an impact. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the episode.